Hello, everyone. I'm Carolyn Martin, and I am the Outreach and Education Coordinator for Region 5 of the Network of the National Library of Medicine. And I'm hosting today's session of the PNC MLA Health Equity and Diversity Speaker Series. And with me to assist is my Region 5 colleague, Maddie Romancic. We're glad you could attend today's session of the webinar series that is a collaboration between the network of the National Library of Medicine Region 5 and the Pacific Northwest chapter of the Medical Library Association. Agriculture workers commit their time and efforts to provide good to the world, and unfortunately on a day-to-day basis, they are exposed to multiple stress sources related and non-related to their work that may often lead into chronic stress. Will this chronic stress ever go away? How do agriculture workers and producers perceive their levels of stress? What are their main sources of stress? What are possible mitigation techniques? Our guest speaker will be addressing these types of questions and concerns of one of our most essential workers. But before I introduce our speaker, let me first go over a few details about this session. We do have a live captioner today, and closed caption has been enabled, and it's provided by selecting the Show Captions at the bottom menu. And depending on the size of your screen, you may need to click on the three dots where it says More, and then selecting Captions. All attendees have been muted, but we welcome your questions and comments in the chat at any time. And later on, you will have an opportunity to ask your questions and be unmuted. Please be sure to select everyone from the drop-down menu when posting your questions and comments in the chat so that everyone can see them. We're recording today's session and we'll post it on the NNLM YouTube channel in a couple of weeks or so. And as a reminder, by registering for this webinar, all attendees have agreed to abide by the NNLM Code of Conduct. It's a reminder that we are all here together professionally, and we want to be inclusive and respectful. Your cooperation is much appreciated. The Code of Conduct is also available on our website, and the link is in the chat. This class is eligible for one Medical Library Association continuing education credit, as well as eligible towards the Consumer Health Information Specialization. You'll be able to claim the CE through the evaluation link that we will have with the MLA CE code, and this will be shared at the end of the session. And speaking of that evaluation, your feedback really does matter to us, and it helps us improve future training, so please take a moment to complete it, whether you want the CE or not. Our guest speaker today is Gracia Maria Puerto Hernandez, and is with the Western Region Agricultural Stress Assistance Program, also known as WRASAP team, and she'll be here to tell you more about herself. So welcome, Gracia, and I'll turn it over to you now. And I'll stop sharing my slides. Sorry about that. And then you can share yours.
Thank you, Carolyn, for that introduction. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining today's session. And just checking, can everyone see my slide? My presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Let me move this. So for today's presentations, you'll be mainly focusing and talking about challenges for agricultural producers and workers, those who will assist in the front line, those who are feeding the world, in other words, let's say. So a little bit about myself. I grew up in a small family in Central America, Honduras, and I studied in college for food science in a university that we do part-time working on the fields with the workers and part-time taking classes. So for me, it was a huge mind-blowing experience getting to be there just half time working on the fields under the sun with the PPE that it's it's good. You need to use it for protection, but when you're working on the field and you need to do a certain piece, it was like not being able to breathe at some point. So for me, I was just intrigued how there's people out there who do it all day, every day, and at a certain piece because they need to pay the bills, they need to sustain their families, and they live with this type of work in agriculture. So I did my undergrad in food science, then I did my master's in animal science at Oregon State University, and now I'm working with extension service with Washington State University, uh, working and learning more about the people who are those faces in agriculture, feeding and working and giving everything for not just the well-being of their family, but also their community and in the same level to the whole world. So yeah, that's me. So for today's presentation, I have three general objectives, and it's mainly to present a survey that was a database that uh, started in our project, the RASAP team, as Carolyn mentioned it, the Western Region Agricultural Stress Assistance Program. I'll be talking more about our program in the following slides. And we wanted to know first, what are these stress? What are the stressors and the mitigation techniques that we can address and how to do it? And that will be the first objective that I will be presenting or try to explain. And then the second objective is following. Once you understand the stressors and mitigation techniques, what is that stress? How are they perceiving that stress, the producers and the workers? And what are the management topics that they'd be interested in managing that stress? And what are the methods of receiving information related to stress and mental health? And as a third objective would be to share the available resources to farmers, ranchers, and agricultural workers to manage their stress and improve their well-being, that it's provided by a big team, the RASAP team that covers the Western region. We'll talk about more about it on the next slides. So first, I bet many of you know way better than me, but I would like to share a bit. What is stress? So the stress through research has shown that is not totally bad. A small amount of stress, it's positive. It encourages you or us to do activities, to have that rush of adrenaline and do things and get out of trouble situations sometime. It relieves it increases our heart rate, so that helps our circulating system. But that's the positive. It's short, it's acute, it's a response to a situation. But the positive on a bigger extension can become tolerable when it is like in a more extended period of time, and it's less easier to get out of that stress mode. So that can get serious, but we can get out of that stress with help or conversations or uh, with coping techniques or breathing exercises or just trying to keep it down, because the stress source can be just for a moment, is not permanent. But what if that stress sources are permanent, and not just permanent, but can be accumulated over time? That's when it becomes toxic. And how can we identify toxic situation of stress? Well, mainly when workload or our personal life or all activities are all sources of stress. So there's no way we can get out of that stress mode. And over time, our immune system can be affected. Our health, can be affected as well. So picture that scenario with people who work in agriculture. Farmers and ranchers are exposed to stressors that not all the time they can control. And if you pile them up, they become toxic. And because of stigma, it's not always easy to present it to them, or they're not aware of those piling up situations of stress that brings sickness. And because of the type of work and area that they live, it's not easy to eliminate these stress sources. For example, isolation. Farmers, they live in a big community, but most of them, they live where they work, and they live around the area of where they have their crops or they're raising their animals. So it's very easy for them to feel isolated. um, they also have sources of stress that they cannot control. For example, the prices of commodities, the changes in the government regulations, and of course the weather. It's nice that we can see these changes, uh, and it helps the plants, but it's not always due to climate change or other factors. It's not always easy to predict. And a loss in a crop that or a harvest that you already invested a lot of your finances, if you cannot harvest, or if you don't receive a revenue for that, you can lose everything. So that's something that uh, can affect really badly our people working in agriculture. Also, there's a lot of families that have this role for generations, that they maintain the business. So due to all these factors that they cannot control, they have the pressure, the generational pressure, that they need to keep up for the next generation. And what would, like, imagine being in that situation, that you have this business and that you're third, fourth generation, and you're struggling at this time, and there's a chance that you may lose your farm. How to deal with that? Like, it's really hard. And due to the commitment and the involvement in their lives, it's really hard for them to separate work, their work life and their home life, because they live where they work. They live in the farm. The workers, most of the time, they're family or people close to them. So it's really hard to separate those challenges that they can be fine on the fields, and then at the end of the day just separate them and have a different conversation with the family when they are the ones who are helping also on the fields. Um, and of course, stress and mental health are related. And according to the Centers of Disease and Control and Prevention, mental health includes our emotional, our psychological, and social well being. And it's essential for having a quality life to have a proper mental health. And it helps to handle stress. So, how to go to identify a stress source and have the strength to address it and reroute uh, the the routine, or reroute or ask for help. You need this strength, this mental health that is not always uh, part of the people who work in agriculture. And one of the big challenges, they're very particular based on the individuals, the specific variables, but in a general way to see it, we can talk about the cultural mindset that can protect not to ask. There's this stigma or this culturally way of seeing things, that you need to be strong, you need to uh, be the head and not lose it, or keep it all together, because if you lose it, then what would the people who are working for you would think about you? And it's hard. There's also, for some people, the language barrier, especially for those specifically talking about the workers who are either seasonal or migrant workers who speak a different language and they need to adapt. Another barrier in order to ask for help. Um, Also, as mentioned before, the scenarios with unpredictable variables, the weather, the prices, the work-life balance, and being away from family, uh, especially for the workers who are some of them, seasonals or the migrant, mainly the seasonal workers, who come for a specific period of time just for do the harvest or just for do a certain part of the cycle of the production. They don't come with their families, and they come by themselves, and they do this hard work, and they're away from their family. So it's a lot to take in for them. And also another challenge can be the personal specific challenges based on the individual. So knowing about the stress and mental health, the importance of it, how can we help? So with RASUP, um, they started two surveys as a baseline. They wanted to know what is it? What is these stressors? How can we address them? And once we locate them or identify them, we work with it and we give follow-ups. So on 2020 and 2021, they had a survey, 796 participants, where they collected the perceived stress levels, the sources of stress, the desired stress management topics, and the preferred methods of receiving information. This was for the agricultural producers, and they also did another one specific for the workers, where they had 515 participants from all the Western region, which is, you can see it in the map. It's all those states and the territories, where they asked the same data was collected: perceived stress levels, sources of stress, desired stress management topics, and preferred methods of receiving information. So how was this data collected? Well, the stress perception was collected via a scale. It's a perceived stress scale. Well, you ask people how stressed do they feel, if low, medium, or high, and based on how they feel, you locate them in one of the three scales. And this is a tool that has been used for years. It's not recommended to be used for diagnosis, or to treat as a disease or make a medical diagnosis, but it is a useful tool to address and try to help and try to identify or put in location how they perceived their stress levels. Um, the topics were specifically delivered from the stress management literature and research in agriculture that has been done over previous research. And the strategies that they wanted to offer in the options was piloted by 12 agricultural mental health specialists. On the image, we can see one of the leaders in this survey investigation, Dr. Michelle Groove DeWay, from Montana State University, which is one of the partners in the Western region of our program, of our RASA program. So the top stressors for the producers, it was the workload, the lack of time to free time or time with their families, financial worries, and especially the production costs. They also had lack of work and family balance, and the legislative issues related to agriculture. Those with the asterisk are unique stressors presented only with the producers. And for the agricultural workers, they presented of top stressors: working in extreme temperatures, long working hours, lack of time, low wages, financial worries, and lack of work family balance. And similar to the producers, they had unique stressors. And in this case, for them, it was working in extreme temperatures and the low wages. So we can ask, what are which of these are the most in someone's control? Almost none of them. Production costs, it's a commodity. It's based on it's not controlled by the producers, it's not controlled by the people who work in agriculture. So they cannot control that variable, that source of stress. And for the workers, extreme temperatures especially with climate change and how temperatures increase way higher than previous years. We cannot control that. We can adjust schedules, but that will be really hard because you work based on the need, not of the worker, but on the need of the crop that you are harvesting or treating, or the animals that you need management. And you cannot delay. You have a schedule that needs to be on time in order to have a proper revenue. So we also open this question of what educational resources and programs can be offered to help and reduce the impacts of these stressors. That's something that can be worked in community, and we'll be talking more about that. But it's something that just to keep in mind. Um, so how they perceive the stress. Uh, Producers, they perceived mainly in a medium scale, uh, and similar it was for the workers. They also felt that they had a medium level of perceived stress. And it was interesting because across workers and producers, the youngest group reported the highest levels of stress. And we're asking ourselves, is that could be due to the reduce of stigma, more openness of talking about this topic of how do you feel, knowing what is stress, getting to have this inner evaluation of how are they dealing with the day-to-day stress sources. Um, and for the preferred stress management topics for the producer specifically, the top three were financial, problem solving, and physical activity. And we asked, how can we best partner with organizations to work together and try to address these topics and work with it? Because research has shown that there's a lot that there's factors that they cannot control. But if you can control something that you have some way to control, that helps on how you perceive the stress from the source that you cannot control, because you feel that you're in control of something in that it's important for you. So in this case, the topics that they're really interested in learning more, it's financial, problem solving, and physical activity. For the producers and for the workers, it was financial assistance, retirement planning, and physical activity. And the interesting part was that all the topics that were suggested, even the tobacco, marijuana, vaping cessation, was answered for at least the 33.3% of them. So they're interested in a good number of topics. And that was really nice to see. That yes, that they're open to learn more about a bits of everything, but mainly the three factors are uh, financial assistance, retirement planning, and physical activity. Um, they presented that for the preferred information dissemination uh, strategies, the producers said that they would like to learn about those topics mainly on online webinar classes with the assistance of a instructor. And the agricultural workers, they mentioned that they would like a better way to do it face to face. So it's interesting to see how these two groups, they work in the same area, but they want different ways to address conversations or to disseminate strategies. So that was interesting to see, to see that difference, how producers, they like online and in majority, then they also with instructor, and then the online with no instructor, and then online with library resources. So it's very impersonal, very with confidence, with in a way that it's just like private, let's say private. And on the other hand, we have the workers who want that face-to-face interaction and social media, and self-guided classes with no instructor. Um, so for and in this map, what they presented is uh, based on the specific states and territories, how they want to have that dissemination strategies. So you can see in the territories, mainly they want face-to-face or mail printed information, while in the states we have podcasts and social media and online classes. It's interesting to see. I cannot say like the reasons, but in a way, I could say that there's the interaction is different. The people in the islands, the routine is different. The way they interact in community, it's different. When compared to the people on land in the states. So this information, that was just presented, you can find it online. It was published, and here is the the documents, the titles. They're also shared in our website, www.farmstress.us, in case you want to see more into detail, because they do present the differences by ages, by uh, gender, how there's difference that men, they like more impersonal, and women, they like more personal. And it was interesting, something that I read, they also shared how men were interested in parenting skills. That was interesting, that the authors were mentioning how it was not expected to see that. And women were more interested in the financial part, and youth were interested in cooking classes, and the elder people, they want face-to-face, and they like extension documents. But they were the only ones, because when you compare it to the ages of young people and people in their 30s, that's not a source that they were not even interested in seeing it. So it was quite fun to read those documents. It's interesting to see what type of conclusions or information you can gather based on surveys, based on the people, how they do understand. And we cannot say that they just don't understand what they're going through. They do know, they know themselves. They just don't. Some of them had the opportunity to ask themselves, how is it? How do they perceive the stress? How do they feel? So yeah, uh, I completely invite you all to check those peer-reviewed documents. And yes. So now talking more about RASEP. So what is RASEP? I'll be talking about RASEP since I started talking. I said I work for RASEP, one of the projects that I'm part of. And we're RASEP. It's the Western region of a national program. So the Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network, that it's nationally, it's divided by the Northeast region, the North Central region, the Southern region, and the Western region. So mainly, I just came back today for a meeting in Kansas City. We all gathered together, and we were sharing the updates for all the regions. And the main leads in the Northeast region is Farm Aid and Cultivemos. They have programs and nonprofits, and they shared how they're working with their communities, because it's very different. It's interesting. We all work in agriculture, but the people are different, the crops are different, the way their schedules are different, the way they deal with stress is different. So it's interesting to see and compare the experiences. The North Central region is guided by University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. The Southern region is led by the University of Tennessee, and the Western region is guided by the Washington State University. So this network is funded by USDA, NIFA, by the FARCEN, and this grant was established for networks and connection agricultural producers, including farmers, ranchers, and farm workers, with the resources to assist them in times of stress. Because sometimes there's resources, but how available or are they for them, or how aware are these the target audience are aware of these resources that are available for them. So that was one of the the goals or the incentives of this national network. So it's really nice to be part of this program. I'm learning a lot. I started working with them in January, and it's fabulous. It's interesting to see collaboration and how people exchange information and collaborate. Um, yes. So the Western region, the components of this program in the Western region is baseline, the one that I've been talking about, the surveys and interviews for agricultural producers and the workers, the report of analyzed data, also the regional aggregated reports that are based on. So this information was gathered by state, and each state do it differently. For example, in the territories, they do it face to face. We work together with University of Guam, for example, and Guam covers also the territories, the Palau, the like the Micronesia islands, and they have this focus group, farmers workers group, that they know the locals. They work together with them, and they go one by one and with a piece of paper, and they start conversation and they answer the survey, which is very different on how it was done on some of the other states on the Western region, which was online and you just answer the questions. But it's different. It's different ways, different ways to do the to collect the data. Um, Another component of the RASEP program is the networking. So we have networking with, for example, AgriAbility. If you're familiar, this is a program that the main focus is to help and provide assistance to those people who worked in agriculture and for some reason they have a disability, or they, due to working in agriculture, they had an injury and they still need to continue working because they're the providers in their family. So AgriAbility it's an amazing national project, program that assists those people and give assistance technologies. They do guidance, they do visits to the people in the farms, and they help them. So it's really nice to see that work that is being done. Also part of the network in RASIB is to embed behavioral health competencies into existing service delivery. So it's working with all the resources that are available there, just getting to know what exists and to putting in the either in the clearinghouse or sharing it over a conversation or a presentation, and talk to the target audience and letting them know what resources are available for them. Um, Also part of the networking is the National AgriAbility Project mental health components, to the national trainings and the regional conferences. So we gather together with them also in their conferences, and we share what has been done, what are the updates, and what can be collaborated. Um, Another component is the outreach, which is to apply that baseline data to develop responsive strategic education and an outreach effort. Also to enhance the capacity of network partners and the community members, and to provide a culturally appropriate educational programming, informational resources, and referrals to direct services. It sounds so nice, but believe me, it's challenging because we want to make it, especially that part, culturally appropriate. It's challenging. Um, there's so many differences, variables that needed to be addressed: educational level, culture, background, preferences. It's hard, but it's totally worth it because it's the best way to really target that audiences. Also, part of the grant component is the direct services. And with that, we partnership with Farm Aid Hotline, the Rural Peer Assistance Network, the Everyday Democracy, the peer support groups, the Promotores Outreach, the Mental Health Intervention Curriculum Development, and with trainings of QPR, Question First Aid Refer, and the Mental Health First Aid. Talking more about the services in 2024, this year, we're mainly having a services is partnering with Farm Aid that they provide services uh, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they are available nationally, but that they cover for us with the Western region, they cover the whole Western region. They also help with us with adding resources. So since they are a national network, they know resources and we work together and they help saying like, hey, we have these resources that are available in your region and we add them on your website in the section of clearinghouse where people can see what resources are available in their specific area. Yeah, so we also have the mini grants where people apply. Anyone can apply. Anyone who is related to agriculture in any matter. We have these meetings we read and we go through every single proposal, and it's a team of 5, 7, depending on how many partners volunteer, and they go through the screening process, and they receive the mini grants that can be for professional development, for translation, for outreach, for anyone who works in agriculture. Also, we have the services, or we partnership with AgriSafe, which is a line that works 24/7. And our program, they work with specific states. And yes, they also have a series of webinars, if I'm not wrong. Um, so yes, specifically in our website, RASP has this mapping project. I mentioned before, in a clearinghouse, we want to make the resources easy for the people to locate. So the interactive map, the idea that will hopefully come soon is that the people who visit our website can check or click Washington and see all the resources that are available in the state of Washington with a pin, so they can specifically know where they're located in a more interactive, easy way for them to see it. More about RASEP. Well, mainly this program, it focuses in communication and collaboration of partners to offer funding opportunities to support navigating resources in a way that it feels with relatedness, with compassion and education. So it's uh, in a more approachable way for the people who wants to receive information from us. Also, we do outreach for farm stress and mental health based on existed extension-based programs. And as mentioned before, our efforts include clearinghouse, mini grant programs, network, and community-based outreach. Um, Talking more about this community-based outreach, it is to serve the communities in a more familiar way, delivering that information in a way that they can understand at the community level, especially for those communities that have been underserved. It has been shown to be culturally and linguistically effective. And how it's done, it's by using the community leadership. It's getting to know who are the leaders in that community, either uh, the priests, like the spiritual or church guidance, or health uh, leaders who the community already know. So it's getting to know those leaders and talking to them about the program and see if that's something feasible for the community and how can we make it work so that locals in that community can receive the information in a way that they can feel more familiar with it. An example can be for the Latino communities. We have the promotores, which are bilingual and bicultural leaders who help uh, share the message. In the image, we see Esmeralda Madujano that works in UC Davis. She's amazing. She has experience. She works. She's one of those people who goes on the field and share time and work with the ag workers. Yesterday she was sharing with me that she just came back from pear harvest, and it was really hard for her to see them and having those hard conversations. They were exhausted. It was really high temperatures. um, but it's how you make connections with them. It's how you can relate more easily to them, to know how they do their work day to day, every day, under any circumstance. And on the picture, she's talking about our network quarterly meetings. That if you want to know more about it, it's information is on our website. So basically is information, it's meetings where it's open for the public. Anyone can join those meetings. And it's just sharing what are we doing. If people are interested, if new collaborators are interested, you join the team. If there's questions, any type of questions, they're shared over those meetings. And like I said, if you want more information, it's in our website. There's a link there, and in case you may be interested, the next one will be August 22nd, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, I cannot see my okay, 11:42. I have time. Okay, so I mentioned a promotores, and I would like to share what is a promotor? Who are these people that are leaders and are an example of leadership in the Latino community? And why is it so important to know about them? Well, the promotores are committed and passionate community-based leaders who are respected by the members of the community that they serve. They are cultural and language brokers because they speak an example, English and Spanish, or English and the Mixteco, or the local language that the community that they serve, that community, the language that that community speaks. So they know the culture and they know the language, and that's a huge way to help and to deliver the message. And they build relations. They're peer educators. They're every day they're there with the community, and they build those uh, relations that are so needed, especially when talking about these sensitive topics, about stress, mental health, about uh, these topics that are so personal, and it's not easy. It's not like you don't talk about this to everyone or anyone that you don't know. So talking to them, or getting to know how to talk to the people based on their experience, it's a treasure, I may say. So through the interaction with promotores, the community members, they feel heard in the cultural context and are more receptive to the message and resources they provide. This is because they are talking through a voice that they understand, that understands them. It's if they're not able to talk to the person on top, they talk to the promotor, and the promotor talks to the other person. So they build these bridges that they were on existence. So they bring a way of communicating for those communities that most of the time they don't have that facility to talk, to just to share, or what they feel, what they need. So it's really for me, getting to know about the promotores was a a big thing, if I may say. So how do we develop, or how it is suggested to develop partnership with promotores? So before engaging, it is suggested to get to know the community, identify the reasons that you want to work with that community. Like, why is that community interested for you? Like, do you want to know why they work so hard, or are you curious, or you want to help them, or you see that there's a need? Get to know that community. What's the background? What they do? What's the history of those people? And once you have that engagement, you can develop the partnership with them and reach out with a conversation. On my experience, and based on the conversation with the expert in my team, Esme, they're really nice people. Most of the time they do voluntary work. They have their job, and they do the promotores part as a voluntary part. They're just part of the community, and they want to help their community. So it's really um, nice to talk to them. And once that conversation or partnership is established with them, sustain that partnership with them. Keep conversation going. Get to know with them, and try to see or organize events or gatherings with the community. And don't be hard on yourself. Celebrate the wins and the lessons learned together. Um, Humans were always evolving. It's really difficult to uh, get to know what are the ending, what are like the best way to approach. So you just learn from the experience over and over again. Um, so with that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for everyone who is here today. And for my team, I want to say thanks to all the RASAP team and the agricultural workers and the producers who participated on the surveys, to our big part of the team, Esmeralda Mandujano from UC Davis, and Dr. Michelle Grook DeWay from Montana State University, and our director in WSU Extension Office, Don McMorran. So with that, I want to say thank you for your attention, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Gracia. I really appreciate this wonderful presentation. You brought a lot of awareness and information for us about a community of people that I think are so often invisible to many of us, and yet are such essential workers. And so this has been great to hear. At this point, feel free to put any questions or comments in the chat box. But also, Maddie, did you say that you're also allowing everyone to unmute themselves
yeah,
if they
I
would
can
like to ask it verbally?
change that setting now. So people
Okay.
should be able to unmute themselves.
And while you're thinking about that, let me just ask a question. So how do you think, Chrissy, not to put you on the spot, I know you offered some suggestions, but how do you think that libraries could best offer, be involved? Is it to invite promotores to come and speak and hold sessions? Is there a list of resources that are better, or some online things? I'm just was wondering what might best work, at least to initially start with.
Yes, no, thank you. Thank you for your question. Wow, it's a good question. I would say, uh, depending on the community, I would invite the promotores to a small meeting, and introduce the librarians, what they do, what they like doing, why the community would be interested in getting to know, like it's showing them the importance. So the promotores can be, oh, maybe we could do this, because sometimes they come with the idea of maybe we could do this, and or they could say, we have this need in the community, maybe you could help us with this, or we could have a gathering, or online, because it depends. Different communities are different. Some communities, that the level of education is really low. Some of them, they especially with agricultural workers, they may not know how to read. Maybe it's different. The approach may be different. So the best way is to gather with the promotores and say, hey, we want to share. What can we do? Or what is the topic of interest of the community, and establish that relationship with them, and they know the community, so that they would know what to talk about, or the best way to approach. I don't know if I answer your question, Carolyn.
You did.
Okay.
Thank you. And that makes so much sense. Yes, just to find out the specific needs are in that community, because like you said, it can differ across from community to community. I'll hope that everyone else and give you all a chance to ask your questions or have any comments.
Don't know. I can check the chat, but
Oh,
I
I
don't.
think someone would like to know, many people are saying thank you for this great presentation, but another one asked if you could please share your email again in the chat.
Yes. In the chat, I can do that.
Yeah.
There you go. Yes.
Thank you. And I know, I'm not sure if that is one of your colleagues, but someone has put in a lot of helpful links that I think would also be good for people to keep in mind.
Thank you. No, it's awesome. It's really nice to you never know who will be in the audience. So I appreciate everyone who's sharing links because that's resources are there. And when I started, I didn't know about it. It was based on conversations, attending to webinars, meetings that people would share information and that enriched me. so yeah, if I appreciate, thank you everyone who is sharing information. Yes.
We do have one question here. What is the best way to stay current with news from, and is it pronounced RASAP?
RASAP, yes.
And do you have an email list for that?
Here's the email. The website from stress.us, and there's a newsletter section that you can subscribe and receive all the news. That would be the best way, I would say, through the website. There's a team and they keep updating with the quarterly meetings, the surveys, all the information, like all the aggregate or by state, it's all on the website. So if you want to check by state or the aggregate report, you're welcome to do so.
Oh, and here's another great compliment that this has been one of the most useful presentations that this person has attended in quite some time. And I agree, it's been a great one.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. I don't have a lot of experience talking, but I just share my experience and I'm glad that it can be useful for people. I appreciate it. Yes.
Yes, I met Gracia at a conference, so you never know who you will run into, and I just thought this might be a great opportunity to hear about a group of people that, I grew up in a small town, very rural, with farmers in the Midwest, but lots of different stressors there that even as a young person, I could sense hearing conversations and such. So yes, thank you. Well, we'll still give you all some time to ask a question, but meanwhile, Maddie, can you put the link in for the evaluation and the CE credit? Because I just want to make sure that everyone has access to that. If you take the evaluation and you want the Medical Library Association CE credit, and you do not have to be a Medical Library Association member, and you take that survey, there will be a question as if you want that CE, and then if you answer yes, there'll be more instructions about how to get that with an enrollment code. Here's another comment. I don't think enough people see how important our rural populations are not just because they produce most of the items we need on a daily basis to live, but also because of the isolation factor. So yes, thank you, David.
Yes, Ah, it's hard, but it's a work in progress. And believe me, people, the community, they're making progress. Like seeing having 500 and 700 people answering those surveys, the team, they were surprised that people were able, like open to talk, to take the time and talk about something so personal. So people out there, they're doing an amazing job in the outreach, reaching to the communities. Yes.
Yes, in that survey, I was surprised what some of the top issues were, and then also how people preferred producer versus worker and getting information and learning more. So that was interesting, really.
Yes. Yes. I would never guess because they were together. So you would say, yeah, they're in the same area, all agricultural people, same thing. No, it's quite interesting how different they can be. Yes.
And
Yes.
that information, I think, it would be helpful. I know not everyone attending is and works in a library, but that might be also a way for attendees to think about how to do some outreach as well. Well, I don't want to hold people on the session, but know that you can contact Chrisia. She had submitted her email, and then of course there is the web link to learn more about the work of her team. So thank you everyone for attending today's session. And I also wanted to just say that we are currently planning a session in early December, but registration isn't quite ready. But visit our webinar series webpage to view recordings of past sessions. If you scroll down that link that Maddie will put in the chat, you can see future and past presentations, and the recordings are included there as well. And the recording for this session will be available probably within a couple of weeks. And so thank you for your patience with that. And thank you all for attending. And I want to also say thank you to Chrisia and to our captioner and to Maddie for helping me with the session today, and for all of you attending. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Carolyn and Maddie, for organizing this amazing webinar. It was a pleasure. It's a pleasure to present today. Yes. And thank you to everyone who attended today. Thank you so much.